All right, here we're going to look at solving equations by balance, and we're going to do a worked example. In this case, we've got the equation 6 equals 65 minus k divided by 9. And the whole idea here is I'm going to do the same thing to both sides until I can solve my equation. So looking at this, I always ask myself in my head, if I made that a number, let's just call that 1, and I went about solving this, would I do the divide by 9 first, or would I do the 65 take 1 first? And the answer there would be, well, I've got to do the 65 take 1 before I can divide the 9, so I'm going to deal with the 65 first, and then the 1. So in this case, we're going to put this back to k, and I do the reverse order of what I would have done there. So I'm going to deal with this divide by 9 before I deal with that 65. So to do that, I need to do the same thing to both sides of my equation. And we say, well, the opposite of a divide is a times. Or like if I've got something divided by 9, I could then times it by 9. And that would become just times by 1. So it wouldn't change it. And if I do something to that side, I've got to do something to the other side, exactly the same. So now I get 6 times 9 is 54. And this side becomes just 65 minus k. All right. Next step is a little bit tricky here because I've got 65 take k. And I want to think about this as in I've got like a positive, that's like positive 65, and then I've got minus k. Doesn't matter which order I do it in. What I'm going to do here is say, well, if I've got minus k and I'm adding 65 to it, then the steps I'm going to do here is to do the opposite of what a plus 65 is. I'm going to take 65 from both sides. So I'm going to minus 65 from this side. I'm going to minus 65 from this side. Because if I had 65 take k minus 65, like that 65 doesn't matter which order I do the minuses in there, I'm just going to have 65 take 65. That'll leave me with 0. And then I would just have minus k by itself. So let's rewrite that out for what we have now. 54 take 65 is minus 11. And then 65 take k take 65 just becomes minus k. My final step here is that I'm going to, because I don't want minus k, I want to know what positive k is. So I can really consider minus k as in minus 1 times by k. And I want to now get rid of that minus 1. So to do that, I'm going to divide both sides by minus 1, which is what we do to get rid of divide by minus 1, divide by minus 1. What we do to get rid of minus, and anytime you divide something by minus 1, it doesn't change the number, but it just becomes a positive, right? So that's going to become 11 equals k. That would be my answer, and now I could substitute that in if I wanted and check to see if it works, which we might as well do. If I had 6 equals 65 minus 11, I've just put in where there was k, I've put in 11 divided by 9. Let's look at this right-hand side. I've still got left-hand side isn't going to change. 65 take 11 becomes 54 divided by 9. 54 divided by 9 equals 6. Left-hand side equals right-hand side. Fantastic. All right, I will just throw in an extra bonus one here just to go really right over this. And this time I'm going to leave out the steps that I do each step, and I'm just going to do line by line working without telling you what I've done each step. So in this case, we're going to look at 2 equals 28 over x minus 2. And I'm just going to set it out a little bit differently. I'm going to say, well, that leads me to this. And what I'm going to look at that is say, well, I've got minus 2 on this side. If that x was a number like 1, I would do 28 divided by whatever x is first, then take 2. So I'm going to do the opposite of that. Or the other thing you can think about is like, how can I get at this 2 here? I can't deal with this 28 part until I've dealt with the 2. So let's do this one to start with. And what I'm going to do is get rid of that by adding 2 to both sides. So this side becomes 4 equals 28 over x. So that's enough line by line working out. Minus 2 plus 2 would just go to 0, so it would go. You don't need to really say what you've done each step as long as you're getting the steps, because you're kind of showing it in what you're written here. This is the story that you're telling when you're doing your line by line working. Next up, I've got 28 divided by x, 4 equals 28 divided by x, which is a bit of pain, that x down the bottom there. I can't really deal with that 28 at the top. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to times both sides by x. So if I times both sides by x, I will get 4x equals 28. I will just briefly touch on what I did just then. So I'm saying that if I times both sides by x, then this side here becomes 4x, right? This side here becomes 28 divided by x times by x, which is like 28 times by x over x. Any number divided by itself just goes to 1, so it disappears. All right, now this is a bit more solvable. Now I've got 4x equals 28, and I want to have the x by itself, so I'm going to divide that side by 4. And that means I have to divide 28 by 4, and 28 divided by 4 is 7. And that is my answer, x equals 7. We could put that back in our equation one more time. 2 equals 28 divided by 7 minus 2. And we'll check that, and we'll go 28 divided by 7 equals 4 minus 2. 2 equals 4 minus 2, which is 2. Left-hand side equals right-hand side, and we're all good.